A recession is a period of economic contraction, where there is a significant decline in economic activity and a reduction in overall economic output. It is generally characterized by a decline in gross domestic product, GDP, increased unemployment, reduced consumer spending, and a general slowdown in business activity. Recessions can be caused by various factors such as a decrease in consumer spending, a decline in business investment, or a decrease in international trade. Governments and central banks often respond to recessions by implementing monetary and fiscal policies to stimulate economic growth and reduce unemployment. Recessions can be caused by a variety of factors, including tightening monetary policy. When central banks raise interest rates, it can reduce the amount of money available for borrowing and slow down economic activity. Decrease in consumer spending. When consumers become more cautious and reduce their spending, it can lead to a decrease in business activity and economic growth. Decline in business. When businesses reduce their capital, it can reduce economic growth and lead to job losses. Economic shocks. Economic shocks such as natural disasters, pandemics, or wars can disrupt economic activity and lead to recessions. Financial market collapses. When financial markets experience a collapse or crisis, it can lead to a lack of liquidity and a slowdown in economic activity. Trade shocks. Disruptions to international trade, such as tariffs or trade wars, can lead to a decline in economic growth and increased uncertainty for businesses. Housing market collapses. When the housing market experiences a collapse or crisis. There have been numerous recessions throughout history, but here are a few examples of some of the most significant ones. The Great Depression. The Great Depression was a severe economic downturn that lasted from 1929 to 1939 and was marked by widespread unemployment, reduced consumer spending, and a decline in industrial production. It was caused by a variety of factors, including a stock market crash, a decrease in consumer spending, and a contraction in international trade. The oil crisis of the 1970s. In the 1970s, a series of oil price shocks led to a global economic downturn. This was caused by the OPEC oil embargo, which led to a significant increase in oil prices and reduced economic growth in many countries, particularly those that were heavily reliant on oil imports. The dot-com bubble. In the late 1990s, there was a rapid increase in the value of technology companies and a surge in capital in the tech sector. However, this bubble burst in the early 2000s, leading to a recession that was characterized by a decline in business capital and a decrease in consumer spending. The global financial crisis. The global financial crisis of 2008 was caused by a combination of factors, including the subprime mortgage crisis, a lack of regulation in the financial sector, and high levels of debt. The crisis led to a significant reduction in economic activity, a sharp rise in unemployment, and a decline in the value of many assets. The COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic led to a global recession in 2020, with widespread lockdowns and a decrease in economic activity leading to a significant reduction in GDP and a rise in unemployment. The pandemic also had a significant impact on international trade and supply chains, leading to disruptions in many industries. Recessions can have a significant impact on individuals and society as a whole. Here are some potential impacts to consider. Job losses. Recessions often lead to a rise in unemployment, as businesses reduce their workforce in response to a decrease in demand for their products or services. This can have significant financial and emotional impacts on individuals and families, particularly those who are the sole or primary earners. Decreased income. Even those who do not lose their jobs during a recession may experience a decrease in income, either through reduced hours or lower wages. This can lead to financial hardship and difficulty paying bills or meeting basic needs. Increased poverty. Recessions can lead to an increase in poverty rates, particularly for those who are already economically vulnerable. This can have long-term impacts on health, education, and social mobility. Mental health impacts. Recessions can also have significant impacts on mental health, particularly for those who experience job loss, financial stress, or social isolation. Studies have shown that recessions can lead to increased rates of depression, anxiety, and suicide. Strained social services. Recessions can put a strain on social services, including healthcare, education, and welfare systems. Decreased consumer spending. During a recession, individuals and households may reduce their spending, either out of necessity or caution. This can lead to reduced demand for goods and services, which can further slow down economic activity. Recessions can have significant and long-lasting impacts on individuals and society, particularly those who are already economically vulnerable. It is important for governments and policymakers to consider the social impacts of recessions and to implement policies that can mitigate these impacts. Governments and central banks have a range of policy responses to recessions. Here are some common ones. Monetary policy. Central banks can lower interest rates to encourage borrowing and spending, which can stimulate economic activity. In extreme cases, they may also use quantitative easing to inject money into the economy. Fiscal policy. Governments can use fiscal policy to stimulate economic activity. This can include increased government spending on infrastructure projects or social programs, as well as tax cuts or rebates to encourage consumer spending. Bailouts. Governments can also provide financial assistance to struggling industries or companies. This can help prevent widespread job losses and economic disruption. Stimulus checks. During recessions, governments may also provide direct payments to households to encourage spending and stimulate economic activity. International cooperation. In some cases, recessions may be caused by global economic factors, such as a decrease in international trade. In these cases, international cooperation and coordination may be necessary to mitigate the impacts of the recession and promote global economic recovery. It is important for governments and policymakers to carefully consider which policy responses are appropriate for the specific circumstances of a recession. They must also balance the need for short-term economic stimulus with long-term fiscal responsibility. The prospects for recovery from a recession depend on a variety of factors, including the severity of the recession, the underlying causes, and the policy responses taken by governments and central banks. Here are some potential factors that can impact the recovery. Consumer and business confidence. In order for economic activity to resume, consumers and businesses must feel confident in the economy and in their own financial futures. If confidence remains low, it may take longer for economic activity to recover. Government policy responses. Effective policy responses, such as monetary and fiscal stimulus measures, can help support economic recovery. Ineffective or poorly targeted policies may not have the same impact. Global economic conditions. If a recession is caused by global economic factors, such as a decrease in international trade, then recovery may depend on international cooperation and a rebound in global economic activity. Innovation and adaptation. During a recession, businesses may need to adapt to new market conditions, and individuals may need to seek new job opportunities. Innovation and adaptation can help drive economic recovery and growth. Vaccine distribution. In the case of a recession caused by a pandemic, the distribution of vaccines and the control of the spread of the disease can be critical to economic recovery. If the pandemic continues to spread and disrupt economic activity, recovery may be slower. Some industries may recover faster than others, and some countries may experience a slower recovery than others. During a recession, it is important to be mindful of your spending habits and find ways to save money. Here are some tips on how to save money during a recession. Create a budget. Start by tracking your income and expenses to see where your money is going. This will help you identify areas where you can cut back and save money. Cut back on non-essential expenses. Identify areas where you can reduce your spending, such as eating out, entertainment, and unnecessary purchases. Consider negotiating bills, switching to a cheaper phone or internet plan, and finding alternative ways to have fun and relax. Reduce debt. Pay off high-interest debt first and avoid taking on new debt. Consider consolidating your debt to lower your interest rates and make payments more manageable. Shop smart. Look for deals and discounts when shopping for groceries and other essentials. Consider buying in bulk, using coupons, and buying generic brands instead of name brands. Consider ways to increase income. Look for ways to earn extra income, such as taking on a part-time job or freelance work. Consider selling things you no longer need or use.